Very good morning, friends. I'm here before you not to add any existing knowledge and plethora of knowledge which you already possess. I will take this next valuable 45 minutes to 1 hour to share with you, and thank you for introduction about me. But whatever in my corporate journey of 50 years for large corporates, I will love to take this platform and take that opportunity to share with you those hardcore experiences and learnings out of those mega events. And I'm sure and I'm on the belief that that will benefit you as you march your journey of taking up corporate challenges, your own entrepreneurship, startups and kind of things. Second objective is that I have divided my presentation in two parts. I always believe that whatever you do, your foundation has to be strong as an individual, as a leader, as a corporate, and as a nation. If foundation is not strong, then you cannot take on any in name of this is great opportunity, electricity is great opportunity, or education or healthcare kind of things. I'm taking a topic of electricity because I feel this is absolutely one of the not only sunrise industry, but it is going to grow at a phenomenal speed, and the kind of varieties of the power which this country is going to witness at least next 15 years. You guys are assured of your great future if you just take this as a chapter to consider as part of your career journey. And I'm going to share with you some of the hardcore facts which will excite you. What does that mean? I guess that you are basically familiar with what is electricity. Importance of electricity, I'm not going to deal with that. So first of all, I will like to, as I mentioned to you, that how do we make first our company strong, we as a leadership as a strong, and it's not something like only conceptual intelligence, it's not only emotional intelligence, it is executory part we have to make it great. And that is what I want to pinpoint, highlighting some of the core examples which we have seen, I have witnessed at least in journey of my 50 years of working experience, how corporates have failed, how individual leaders have failed and miserably failed, how you eye on some kind of company which you want to acquire and finally you underperform and you get vanished. And we used to always think of corporates have a long life, immortal, but then corporates have become off late, the life is reduced to something like 9 years, even in Europe 12 years for example, and there's nothing like corporates will remain surviving for 100 years or 50 years, no more. So what is all that? It will come through my next 3 slides. First of all, let us focus on the next 3-4 slides which are very important based on research-based studies. And friends, in the course, please feel free if something remains unclarified or if I'm going speed higher than what you were expecting or lower than that, please interrupt immediately so that we have a best ROI of the time spent which we together. So this is agenda today. First of all, I want to take you back to the basics and how we create a strong, vibrant and resilient organization. When I say organization, also you think as a leader as well. So what are the global dynamics? How that corporates and leaders have destroyed the value, and what is research-based study, which I want to just put one slide. And how do we, create a breakthrough value creation through business transformation and measurement tools. Because I believe unless you measure, you can't control. Unless you control, you cannot excel. Unless you excel, you cannot take a leadership seat. Then we come to power sector, basic backdrop, power sector, challenges, currently concerns, what government has done to address those challenges and concerns, and going forward, how do you have a seamless migration or transition to what we always hear now, green energy or RE, renewable energy, or that kind of era. And what is future for you all in that growth is I want to connect to that. Sorry, this was unintended. It's not any kind of bombing. See that some of you were just maybe small childhood time, prior to 90s era, there was no heat of competition. Today that kind of, you are also in high level of competing to each other कि मेरे को 99 होना चाहिए, 100% marks आना चाहिए. पहले ऐसा competition. They were not born. So India was only the market, and whatever they produce, it will get sold because of protection from the government. So there was least concern on innovation, least concern on quality, and least concern on even customer expectations. All three were missing. आप produce कर रहे हो और माल बिक रहा है. Then we move into 92-15, and you started getting yourself maturity on that. At least that is getting exposed to international competition, both on product side and finance side, and which required at least to relook at your quality part and customer expectation part. And then finally 2015, you have to be absolutely viable in global operations. There is nothing like loyalty कि ये customer मेरे साथ रहेगा. If you don't produce right quality goods, if you don't render that kind of expected services, or you don't bring that delight to your customers, whether it's a profession, industry, or anything for that matter, you won't stand in that as a successful businessman, entrepreneur. And the technology advancements and digitization are adding challenges to doing that around business model. So these are some of the business dynamics. I will not like to take you in detail, but these dynamics are really creating a so-called lot of disruption to existence of the business or business models. Whether it is a retailing business, whether it is a logistic business, whether it is a hoteling business, whether it is a car, Oyo, or Uber, and kind of things. Lot of business disruptions are happening. On Friday evening, you are seeing a different world, and Monday morning when you wake up, you see a world is different altogether. So very fast disruptions are happening. Because of this, global dynamics have become much more violent, volatile, and vibrant. So IT-enabled services, for example, it's not only IT as a support function, it is also as a part of decision-making process to improve your processes, to reduce the delivery time, cycle time, whether it's a production side or customer delivery side, whether it's cross-border M&As. I'm just leaving that bullet points, but you can imagine customer changing expectations. Governance best practices is the key to your surviving in the industry. Believe me, those companies who follow absolutely ethical practices, best governance practices, will survive. And their market command a very high premium. That's a research you can see everywhere. Business risk, global competition, regulatory compliances become all the way more challenging because now businesses are crossing the boundaries, national boundaries. So regulatory challenges of different geographies also bring additional challenges. And then changing business models. Today you don't have factory, you don't have vehicles, you don't have hotels. Still you run Amazon, for example, one of the classical business. You don't own even factories, goods and all that, and you run billions of dollars, trillions of dollars of businesses. So there is changing business model, outsourcing and kind of things. Friends, this is very, very crucial research-based slide. Before to know how do we succeed, we must know where and how organizations have failed. And this is not a small percentage of failures. Even to give you one systematic data of Fortune 500 companies during 70 to 83, more than 40% of Fortune 500 companies have failed. They ceased to exist as a Fortune 500 companies. So is the case in India. I have also witnessed myself in last 60 years I am part of, at least post chartered accountancy. Before that, lots of corporate houses, at least 60% of those corporate houses are not today forced to reckon with. They are not there in the scene, in the radar. So wherever they gone, what has happened? I tell you, these are the 4 negative pills. And my advice to you all as a leader and future leaders of this country's industry and corporate house as a India Inc. You should keep away, keep reviewing. Are you anyway victim of any of these 4 pills? One is denial mode. When you come in denial mode, that, for example, there is a different technology is brewing and you are not taking cognizance of that. And if you come in denial mode, I can bet you your existing business, whatever you start with as a startup or if you join some other business, that business is threatened to be there in some times to come. Many examples you see that how mobile small cell phone has created a clutter for watch industry, photo, that photos things, or printer. How a computer printer, how that has created a challenge to Xerox, for example. Xerox was Chorus, there was one company in India, and that was feeling we are the monopoly. Even outside India, Xerox was one of the giant company, and they came in denial mode. Finest example, you have heard General Motors. 1954, that was Fortune #1 company in the world, and they came in denial mode that these Japanese cars can create any dent on their existence and profitability. And because of denial mode, finally what happened is Japanese cars really came in millions in US side, and Americans started using that as at least second car for their house. And GM finally no longer remain as a Fortune 500 company, and it finally has gone to insolvency phase. There are many examples, let me tell you. In finance side also, CFOs deny that there is no frauds and there are no wrong information, and then finally you have a situation like Satyam. You must have heard that story, and many more examples. This, in interest of time, I will just leave this point, important point. Other is arrogance. Arrogance comes in the leader, then the beginning of the fall starts. You don't really appreciate the brighter ideas coming from you guys, and which can be a changing kind of facet for the organization. But some of the senior leaders in the organization, they come with a very stubborn ideas कि आज का बच्चा हमको क्या सिखाएगा. That kind of arrogance comes. You don't listen to your customers' feedback. You don't listen to your employees' feedback, and you don't appreciate and agree to implement very bright young ideas coming from people like you. Then what happens? That arrogance also contributes the fall of that organization. Complacency, you feel that nobody can be a threat to you. In Indian industry, you must have heard the name Doordarshan. Probably you may not be watching, but that was one of the time biggest thing. And what is happened today? What happened to Ambassador car? What happened to Post Office? What happened to Air India? These survived because of complacency factor, because government protection, and today nowhere nearer to even competing with new eras. Last is greed obsession. In industry, friends, this greed factor really is a very, very senior contributory part to organization fall. Every time these investment bankers or entrepreneurs, they feel that they can over leverage equity, or they can in name of that there can be further incremental returns if you deploy the funds, irrespective and disregard of debt equity ratios and prudent norms of the finance management. They feel that they can earn more money. You might be aware, you must have read that 2008 global crisis originating through Lehman Brothers, was nothing but result of the greed obsession. And in name of the greed, then you overcommit, you overtrade, and you don't just take care. Right now debt is comfortable, but after some time, then you can't service the debt and organization fall begins. So what I'm trying to say is, in very short, this is my 1 day refresher course, but I'm only leaving these important bullet points for you to make this part of your DNA, make a part of your habit. Whatever you want to pursue post your the semesters, please be mindful that, because there is a now testified research-based study, so at least you don't repeat them. Whatever best things, definitely you do, but certainly refrain and keep your distance from these 4 of the things. Keep reviewing your own profile from time to time. कहीं आप चारों में से कोई एक negative pill तो नहीं ले रहे हैं. Now this is slide again, a compressed slide of more than 700 pages of management book. So finally, after negative, let us see that what we need to do to build an organization and create our enterprise value. Eventually, we all exist to create what? Value for ourselves, value for the corporate, value for the society, okay, and value for the people who contributed our business as business partners and lenders. So if you have to create a value, whatever you are doing in terms of services, products, manufacturing, space, or any kind of things, eventually there has to be a kind of Gita Gyan कि कहाँ से करेंगे. According to me, these are the, I just try to compress, these are the mediums and means of creating values in the organization. And again, I am telling you based on my own experience how corporates have really, just to excite you, one example which I am very passionate always sharing. I was part of Crompton Greaves, and when I joined exactly in June 2001, market data revealed that organization worth was only 100 crore. 100 crore rupees, not dollars. And in 9 years journey, because of this, let me tell you, the market valuation went up to 15,000 crores. And it's a amazing 150 times. What does that mean? It's not only shareholders benefited. It's the thousands and thousands of the families associated as a suppliers, customers, employees, and their families. What kind of delight which would have come to that whole group of lakhs of other families associated directly, indirectly with the company. This is the biggest social service, philanthropic service, and humanity service one can do by increasing the enterprise value. So where all we can contribute as a group and future leaders is, one is reduce cost of capital. How can you do that? That one has to do, even though you may be on technical side, but if you control your working capital in terms of your receivables, your inventory, your payment to creditors, if you, these 3 tycoons of the working capital components, if you control, that's also part of capital, reducing cost of capital. You find some of the capital lying idle, you can see how best that can be deployed. Many of the corporates have repaid the capital, excess capital to shareholders if they did not have plans to deploy, because it was pulling down their return on investment. Similarly, by having innovative mind, where to source, at what rate to source, on what leveraging you should source the funds, and what kind of ideal debt and equity will also help reducing the capital. So there are various ways and means and technologies, processes to bring that down. The other side, you see, once you go through your business portfolios and various assets, some of you should be from finance side. If you look at your balance sheet, you will find, I can, based on my experience, say, on an average 30% of the assets and 30% of businesses are underperforming, non-performing, and basically some of them are non-existing assets also. So why don't you deal with that in terms of, either improving, optimizing, or divesting. So then you are left with the right type of assets, right type of businesses, and that will make the difference in terms of creating a big value, enhancing the enterprise value which we are finally concerned with. Then there are two wings. We are too much focused on operating excellence. Operating excellence means what? Like your throughput improvements in terms of removing bottlenecks, debottlenecks, and improving processes, cost competitiveness, your working capital management, your organization capability in terms of your leadership, visioning, your structure, kind of, and manpower improvements and kind of things. This is all we do. I'm not saying we don't do. But what we don't do properly is that other side is my long-term value creation means. Acronym I can share with you as a mantra is, in my famous language, I call this ETIC, E-T-I-C. What does that stand for? E stands for employee engagement. Finally, friends, whether you like or not, organization performance finally comes through the skills, competency, innovative, creative approach of the people deployed in the organization. So, if people are not energized, engaged, and connect to the organization purpose and goal, then organization cannot succeed. So, there is something like you have to retain right resources, you have to have a right journey, right people sitting on the right seat in the bus and then driving the show. Without that, the long-term value creation is unthinkable. It's a HR subject, but the only thing is you can take a feel out of what I'm trying to say. Then you come to technology upgradation. Technology is not always done in factory level. Technology is how you are doing things differently, whether you're marketing side and whether you are doing finance side, whether you're doing HR side, or whether you are doing tax management side. So it is like, who thought 30 years back that without having a hotel business, you can run the biggest hotel industry in name of Oyo? Who thought 30 years back, without having a single car, today run the biggest fleet of the cars, Uber and Ola, as just two examples. Who thought that without having production, warehousing, and still you deliver the trillions of the goods across the world? Who thought Amazon as a, kind of, and they created a big values in the organization. Then last is, you can't lose the customer focus, their expectations. The customers are no longer will remain wedded to you unless you create a different delight by offering different way of products, services, and concerns for that. They don't want product, they want solutions, frankly speaking. For example, we did little bit in, say, Crompton Greaves, if we sell fan also, but selling fan doesn't mean anything. My person will go and install the fan with the regulator, see that critical to quality factors for concerns, fan should run properly, no wobbling, space, kind of things. Then they see this is a solution. It's a small example. Finally, on my first limb of the subject is, how do you measure? While I'm taking it as that this side of that you are totally familiar, how do you measure the performance of organization is profitability side, return on capital employed, return on net worth, return on sales, then EBITDA to net sales, free cash flow is very, very important. Please, out of these ratios, you take a takeaway from me is, you must see that ki organization mein kahan pe free cash flow hai. You might find that organization is growing in terms of big numbers of sales. You might still find the organization has grown too much on the profitability side, but where is the cash? This means there is something wrong with that. So free cash flow is important. That debt and equity ratio, DSCR, EVA is my very favorite thing, economic value addition. What happens normally when we value our organization, we always take interest of the debt, but we don't take an implicit cost of equity, which has a bigger cost. And then what is kind of value creation which we have done as compared to return on investments. MBA, market value addition, EPS, price earning ratio, total shareholders return, market cap. Now these are the things which are obtainable from your study of balance sheet and kind of things. But other side of balance sheet is more important according to me. And this is what constantly we see, for example, consumer satisfaction index. If that satisfaction index is going down, your future value is also going down. If in pharma you don't have new molecules coming, new products coming, new offerings coming, and other competitor is offering some different and better products, your consumer satisfaction index is going down, and which will impair your future value. Market share, defect ratio, what are the kind of bad quality products which are getting returned back in the factory, what is the percentage rising, matter of concern. Then your new product developments, it is not success of only what you are doing with existing products, it is what are the new things which are also there to offer in the market. And then cycle time, then new IPRs, then technology, leadership bandwidth is very important for fueling the future growth. How do you take on the future growth if you don't have right leaders having the right vision, commitment, energy, and connect to the people kind of things. And then CSR, employee productivity ratio. I believe every hour of employee on that, what is the kind of return. There are various ways and techniques to even measure that. Now friends, these 4 slides make all the difference. It is like preparing our home first and then going for this next biggest opportunity which I want to present to you, and that is electricity power. But if foundation is weak, then it is only just sharing the gyan with you, and which will not take you anywhere. So first of all, the first limb of capsule is very, very critical, and my request to you all is do your review, do your analysis, and now see that in your own self-assessment, when you mirror yourself, you can't be deceitful to yourself, and that will help you to improve as a strong leader, in terms of your commitment, in terms of passion, in terms of what to do, in terms of following what not to do. Now, investing in India power sector towards transition to green energy and future outlook, I am very, very excited to take up this topic. I feel really honored that I got this topic to share your forum. And though it's a huge subject, in next 20 minutes difficult for me to cover, but I have prepared for you, customized according to your expectation, some of important aspects of the power sector. I've tried to make as 360 degree as I can with my own knowledge and competence. Keep focus on that. First of all, even at cost of repetition, let me share with you that so far Indian thermal power sector, really if 1948 if you look at that, we had hardly 1% of what we are producing today. So the real journey is 48. पहले तो वो बल्ब भी नहीं होता था गाँव में. Predominantly right now it is thermal power and again coal based power. कोल को बंद करते हैं and then power बनता है. कैसे होता है वो टेक्निक्स अलग है. Even today, despite lot of talks have happened over last 1 decade about renewable energy, but coal still continues to be a predominant, because that is what you get is a reliable power. Whatever you see today, even just to excite you, आज भी the time I am talking about, today in country as a whole, 72% power is produced out of coal and thermal. 72% even now, despite lot of talks have happened about renewable power. So in terms of installed capacity, currently, just few months back, it was 476 gigawatt. 1 gigawatt is equal to 1000 million watts. So we had capacity of total this, of which coal, the thermal is what? Coal, gas, diesel and lignite, but largely coal, which accounts for 52% in terms of installed capacity. Mind you, not generating, installed capacity. And renewable power, renewable include small hydro as well, solar, particularly wind, biomass and waste converting into power is about 36%. Hydro, big hydro is about 10% and nuclear is just 2%. That is the scene of today India power sector in terms of installed capacity. Now coming to that, when India started doing this in 90s, that reforms, then that time predominantly it was only central and state government monopoly for having power plants. Then private sector was allowed to set up power generating, transmission and distribution as well. So with the result, today what has happened is central and state controls about 24% and state controls about 25%, aggregating to 49% owned by the government, and private sector, because of liberalization and privatization, today accounts for 51% of that installed capacity of 476 gigawatt. However, while I will deal with some of the specific challenges, but this sector has been facing, continues to face a lot of concerns and challenges, mainly on environmental side, mainly on financial side, mainly on efficiency of running the plant, and NPS, huge NPS, and which is taking a big toll on companies' exchequer. So those are the issues of this power sector. Now, in response to these challenges, concerns, from time to time, government has been coming up with lot of reforms and initiatives, and thereby you must have heard that supercritical, ultra supercritical plants, which help to improve the efficiency of running the plant, and plus it emits the less carbon. So environmental point of view also it makes sense, and plus there are also lot of other reforms and initiatives. Some of worth noting initiatives I listed down, which I will share with next slide. And then now going forward, when we talk of companies' progress, all the time country will achieve GDP of maybe this time 6.4%, going forward 7%, 8%. If country has to become developed nation, to support, the backbone is power sector. Without power, you just can't even dream and imagine that GDP can be obtained. So far electricity has been progressing, growing maybe around 5.5%, but now it has to grow more than 7% to catch up that GDP growth. All the way more critical with currently today the way trade wars are happening, and if Make in India has to become a true reality, then power, without power, these are all dry talks. So that's why we are focusing on power sector. Am I so far clear in, or it is going above your head? Sure. Let us understand entire value chain of our sector. Even you know that in all bits and pieces. Let me just put in form of one template. Today power generation and capacity and generation, there is two different things, because whatever capacity you have, sometimes power plant goes under maintenance, power plant don't run because of fuel supply not being there, power plant is inefficient, then transmission distribution losses. So frankly speaking, there is nothing like capacity is equal to generation, and a plant load factor hota hai. Plant mein technically you will understand. For example, in renewable power, you set up a 100 megawatt plant, you will be able to generate at the best 20 to 25%, whereas coal based you can generate 100% theoretically. So let us see first power generation. I am giving you exact data today of 2025. Apna generation 1540 billion units का है. Calculator में मुझे मालूम नहीं किधर आएगा. Of which thermal power is still 72%, whereas installed capacity is 52%. So you must realize that still coal based or thermal is predominantly used to generate power. Then RE is only 16% versus installed capacity of 36%. Then hydro is 9%, nuclear is 3%. So with that, secondly, let me also give you one very exciting data. In India, per person, like you as a one person, consumes power about, you can say roughly, because little figure is increased, around 1500 units per person, capita units. Alright? Comparable to China, which is about close to 5000. So it is more than 3.5 times, even little 5000 more. US, if you take figure of roughly 12,000, Canada 14,000, Australia 10,000, and world average about 3,000 plus. So we are even far below the world average. So this has to go up. This is because in rural villages still you burn only one bulb of 40 megawatt or 40 watts. So, and gadgets are not there. Lot of electricals in agricultural field is not there. So that is why our per capita consumption is poorest in a way. Fuel for thermal power, when you talk of thermal power, then it is coal, gas, diesel, lignite. Through that they are burnt, steam is generated, steam turbine में जाता है, फिर power generation होता है, फिर wire के through वो supply होता है. As far as nuclear, it is uranium. As far as renewables, either solar, biomass or waste, or hydro, that flowing water, and which helps to run the turbine. Then finally generation is not enough, because power is one thing, generally it cannot be stored. आपने बनाया है, it has to immediately transmitted and used for consumption. The transmission lines today in 24 was 4.9 lakh circuit kilometer, because that is known through circuit kilometer, because it is taken through wires. Now in wires, I don't want to inflict you with too much of the technical knowledge. One is that low tension wire, another is high tension wire. High tension wire right up to 220 kVA, then right now 730, 790, 1100 also in Russia or in India also is being planned. More high tension power lines means less loss in transmission and distribution in term on the wheeling side. That is the advantage. Then you finally have to have distributors, like product distributor होता है, ऐसे distribution है आपका बॉम्बे में अभी लाइट मिल रहा है जैसे टाटा का, अडानी का, तो they are called distributor. They just get that from wire grid, and finally from transformers, that power comes at a very high intensity. So that has to be stepped down to say 220 watts, what you consume at home, 400 watts for AC freeze. So it is stepped down through the help of the transformer, distribution transformer, and then wire comes through that low tension wire to your houses. That is how distribution and sub-distribution happens. And then finally, what is your customer composition today in India? Industry consumes about 41%, this is latest data. Agricultural about 18%, domestic use is about 26%, and commercial and others, including that, EV motors and kind of things, is about 4%. Now, coming to the challenges. Now, what is all challenges? Then only if we identify the challenges, then we can think of what are the samadan and solutions, and what government has been doing, and what is way forward and future outlook, and focus on renewable energy. So, first of all, financial challenges is real. I think in 2003, when Electricity Act came into place, the reforms started with a wrong beginning at generation level, not at distribution level. So आपने generate तो बहुत कर लिया, लेकिन आपकी distribution companies in a very bad shape in terms of bad financial health, aging infrastructure, they don't have that kind of infrastructure, no proper transmission lines and kind of things. So a lot of power and no national integrated grid and kind of things. So some pockets like northeastern India, you generate power, but that power evacuation facilities were not there, so power was going west kind of situation. So that resulted in lot of this DISCOM's poor health, high debt, and with that high debt, they did not have enough funds to deploy for modernization in improvements. Lot of debt has increased because of one simple factor. Let me explain to you. There is a average cost of power and there is a average revenue per unit. Because of many times political interventions and also inherent inefficiencies, there was always gap of as high as 70 to 80 paisa per unit. So you pay for say 3 rupee and you realize only 2 rupee 20 paisa. So how you can become profitable? This is true with most of the so-called discoms. Discoms means distribution companies, mainly owned by state government or central government. So this was the reason resulted in high non-performing assets, and finally who was paying this price? Bankers were finally paying the price for this. Inefficient tariff structure, I have explained to you, is nothing but government was not allowing, because of vote and election and more political motives, to increase the rate of electricity, and thereby there is a difference between average cost of power which they were acquiring, power discom companies, and what they were realizing. So that is a bad tariff structure. Then comes to this operating challenges is T&D losses. T&D stand for what? Not theft and dacoity, but it is theft and dacoity. It is transmission and distribution losses. There are two types of losses. One is systems related, because your power lines are not efficient. एक concept है HVDC, हाई वोल्टेज डायरेक्ट करंट. तो उसमें क्या होता है कि जब करंट फ्लो होता है तो उसमें व्हीलिंग लॉस कम होता है. बिकॉज ऑफ द पुअर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एंड नॉट मच done on the modernization and replacement of those lines, almost 10% you lose, 10 to 12% you lose through that system problems. Another 10 to 12% you lose because of bad practices, not properly metering, and in farmhouses, when lines pass through rural areas, they put the hook and draw the power, don't pay for that. Lot of chori in short. India standard has been, one point in time 26%, came down to 22% 3 years back, now close to 17%, whereas best of the countries have about just 10 to 11%. In India, yes, Gujarat is very efficient, and you look at today even Jharkhand, Bihar, Northeast, Jammu Kashmir, Nagaland, their loss is almost close to 40% plus. Composition of chori, as well as they are not able to evacuate properly. Comes to environmental and social challenges. As I mentioned to you, that thermal power is largely because of coal. Okay? So what does that mean? It is posing a big problem, challenge in today's, when we talk of climate change and all that. The biggest pollutants and bad emissions happen, greenhouse emissions happen through the coal, namely SO2, that sulfur oxide, carbon dioxides, NOx, that other bad particles. Now they are flown in the air and create health hazards because of that reasons, respiratory problems and many health issues. Government has been coming with heavy hand, lot of commitments have been made by Prime Minister in various forums. But you cannot survive today. 72% power is generated through coal. So some of the technological advancements have happened by using the best quality coal, and which leaves less fly ash. When coal quality is better, then uska jo raak hota hai, fly ash hota hai, wo kam hota hai. Fly ash is again polluted matter. Secondly, now government has made compulsorily any power plant must have FGD plant connecting hoti hai, whereby whatever that gas is generated, it is first absorbed in that second auxiliary plant called FGD, fluid desulfurization plant, and that bad gases are absorbed in that, and then power is emitted in the air, which has a very less kind of obnoxious gases. So that is all exercise going on, but still long way to go. Then you come to social challenges, like including land acquisitions, when you acquire land, rehabilitation of the people, and lot of delayed approvals and kind of things. And last, regulatory and policy changes, where enforcement is a major issue, coordination among various government wings, and delaying approvals and kind of situation. So I have not given too many on my problem side and concerned with these are the four categories. This plant is, power sector is plagued with these four issues. So what government has done is a lot of initiatives, and I want you to really just try to absorb what government has done over a period of time. First is that integrated power development, which is that to control TND, transmission distribution network improving in urban areas HVDC. So that will bring down loss of power, thereby it will directly make available more power to be used by the end users. Then Deen Dayal Gram Jyoti Yojana, which is electrifying 100% in rural areas, which I think as per the government announcement it is done 100%. Then you have that Saubhagya recently launched by Prime Minister Modi. So universal household, every household must electrify. The test of electrification, every household is एक bulb लगना चाहिए minimum. Then you have that Uday scheme, you must have heard, this was a very popular scheme to improve, incentivizing to improve financial and operating performance, and thereby उनको बोला जाता है कि you bring down your transmission and distribution losses, then government will consider you giving bonds, money, grant and kind of things, and then they have to come with that, and this was helping DISCOMs to improve their health in turn. Then another scheme which came of again reducing that transmission distribution of 12 to 15%, smart grid mission by smart meters. Now this is a game changer, where smart meters will read how much is the generated, what is transmitted in process, kitna losses hai, kitna billing hua hai, kitna realize hua hai. So all data are captured through control room through this star mailing system. Other areas of, when we talk of now green power, a target of 500 gigawatt of renewable power is an ambitious plan, and while on the papers, government paper, it is still written as a 2030, but the way installations of solar has happened last 3 years, like 14 gigawatt and 18 gigawatt or 22 gigawatt, unlikely the 500 will be obtained unless you have a scorecard of 60, 70 gigawatt every year, then possible, which looks as a real challenge. So in all likelihood this will happen by 2032. So what are all happen, you must be aware. It will not happen as a magic overnight. For example, there is a center set up very systematically, which will ensure renewable energy integration with overall other power in the grid. So there are the conditions that if you buy say from X thermal power this much, you have to buy 25% say renewable power, and grid will accept both the power entry into it. Similarly, solar pumps, Kusum Yojana, where solar pumps are there for agriculture, and extra power local DISCOMs will be able to buy from the farmers, so killing two birds with one stone. This is green hydrogen mission. How of you are aware about this hydrogen, a new talk which is happening? I'm sure you must have read quite a lot. Do you know what is it, how this happens? How many of you can raise the hands? Hydrogen power. This is going to be future. Now, right now, problem is cost, problem is, investments, and problem is integration of this whole thing. Now, this is one of the major steps going way forward in future. It is like electrolyzing through that use of solar power, and that splits in water molecules your oxygen and nitrogen. So far no pollution has happened. So once hydrogen gas is separated through this electrolyzing process, which in turn is also done, process is done through use of solar power, hydrogen gas will be used for making power, because that gas is used to create a steam. A steam will use for turbines and power will get generated. So कहीं पे भी आपको कोई कार्बन नहीं निकला है, कहीं पे भी नॉक्स नहीं हुआ है, कहीं पे सल्फर नहीं निकला है. And this can also be used abundantly for transportation, logistics, and even in lot of industries as well, industries purposes. This is a game changer for renewable power. Then lot of modernization expansions for grid expansion, which is important. Grid role, you know that कि आप जब पावर बनाते हैं तो फैक्ट्री से पावर गया, वो अपने कैप्टिव wire से finally the power is loaded into the grid, and grid में जब power जाता है वहाँ से फिर वो power जाता है end users के लिए through those high tension wires in a very systematic controlled manner. So if you pump in more power into the grid capacity, then grid will burn because of frequency matter. So that is also controlled and monitored accordingly. Then comes to transmission. Finally power has to be transmitted and you need transmission lines. Right now it is 4.9 lakh CKM, which is targeted to enhance to 6.5 CKM. Then storage products power, major problem is storage today. So at least storage pump projects 39 gigawatt, which is good capacity. Currently is also around 38, so 39 will be added additionally. So that will address somewhat storage issues. Now coming to financial side, correcting the tariff structure. Now government is going left and right. Judiciary is also coming with heavy hand with DISCOMs and that appellate bodies. Please allow them to a right tariff structure, thereby you recover at least cost of procuring the power. So that gap of average realization and average cost can be minimized to zero almost. Then you have this scheme to resolve NPA, this RBB, that bankruptcy board, to also facilitate NPA. Lot of studies are happening whereby those power plants which are already in advanced stage of commission and in NPA stage, at least they are trying hard where the government or other private players can make use of that power plant and make them functional, operationally functional. Then FDI, so far $18 billion has already come from 2000 to 2024. Then transmission network, as I mentioned to you in my previous slide, there is outlay of 9.2 lakh crore. And in next 5 to 6 years, we expect with the kind of present survey, 17 lakh crore is expected from those investors with focus on expanding renewable power things. Last one slide, 2 slides. The future of then power depends on what? It depends on government policies like ultra mega power projects, national electricity policies, that late payment surcharge and stable regulatory framework. Public and private partnership will play a very important role also in times to come. So this will address financial and operating challenges which the sector is going through. Then come to strategic investments and policy reforms and technological advancements will be critical for making this power more reliable, sustainable and assured. 24/7 is the theme of the government. One of the issues for power plants, some power plants have come at coastal line. Now they can't use fuel available in India. We have abundant resources of fuel. You should be surprised, something like 400 billions, out of that maybe large part is can be used. But the thing is, we don't have that kind of mining capabilities. They are not nearer to the power plant, so that fuel is not available. So they over rely on imports, which is also very expensive proposition. So that is also important. Coal supply has to be affordable, available near to the power plant, then only it can become operationally successful. Then environment related I have already covered. Government incentives in terms of tax rebates and in terms of subsidies also will play important role in enticing those investors to bring funds, money, invest in the power plant. Then only will make future of renewable power dream come true. I have tried to portray is that something like is only timely implementation, focused implementation, use of right technology, that is motorcycle, and with ethical practices, going in the right consumer and marketplaces, even though weak animal can also assure the victory, even it is chased by most formidable animal like lion. So that is key to success in every field. Now friends, since I think I don't have much time and I have taken little longer time than expected, but I try to compress two important topics which are like something like 3 days refresher course, and I try to compress for in 45 minutes. But my humble suggestion and advice and request to you all is not to just take this as a more information gain. There is enough information available in many sources, social medias and all that. Pick up the points which you can take as your resolution to implement, execute, imbibe part of your DNA, and see that it can bring difference to your career success journey. I am only highlighting two things as a matter of things. One is how do you create a strong mindset as a leader, is those covered through 4 slides. Then what is the field which you can look at as a potential field for you to grow and contribute, is electricity, and going forward renewable power. So both unbeatable combination will make you one of the contributory success study from you or success contribution from you for this purpose. Thank you very much, and if something time for question answer, I will be ready.
Thank you, sir, for covering the electricity sector so comprehensively. My name is Nikhil Ghadge. I am a first year student of Sydney.
Yes, Nikhil.
Sir, you talked about 500 gigawatt target by 2030 or 2032. Niti Aayog has said in its report that to achieve that target, we need at least 30 lakh crore rupees in financing. So, do you think the present mechanism of financing is sufficient to cater this need, this financial need? Because what Niti Aayog also said, we need something special, for example, national financing green bank, because the available tools are not enough to cater those resources. So what do you think on how we achieve those targets with such financing needs?
It's a good question. I think there is no option left, number one, because if country has to grow, and that's a serious commitment for growth of 7 to 8% at GDP level, you have no option and choice to leave power sector in the backdrop. You have to make that grow. And second offshoot challenge for power sector is the climate change related. So you have to again go to some renewable energy kind of things. So government in its own serious commitment has launched number of reforms and initiatives, and 500 gigawatt is a minimum required, and the government commitment of 2017 Ministry of Power book says that by 2030, I am only moderating, at least it will happen by 2032. Without that, how the growth will happen? How that making India and other dreams will come true? And the customers changing habits of using more gadgets and electricity in agricultural field everywhere. EV, for example, EV charging, then electric vehicles, you need power. So how and where this will come from? Only reliable source in future is predominantly solar, wind, small hydros, and waste, biogas, but largely solar, which is in abundant capacity. And fortunately, India, right from Rajasthan, Gujarat, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu belt, we are blessed that we have a good sun available to support the solar power. And prices are continuously falling of that PV voltage instruments, and there is a corridors and parks which are also equally announced. Investors will look at finally, that future of this industry, ROI, which I think with current initiatives they are feeling reasonably enticed to invest into it. And government support will be there, private and public partnership will happen, and in a way I think that should happen with current initiatives.
Hello, sir, my name is Kaushik Kulkarni, and one of the points you mentioned in the presentation was regarding the financial burden faced by discoms and power generating companies. So I recently talked with one of my relatives who is a farmer, and as agriculture sector is one of the key consumers of electricity. I got to know that there is some discrepancy in billing side from the discoms as well. So, and of course there is one political angle which we should not talk about right now. So, what do you think is the solution, or what should be the discoms do in order to tackle the problems, as it is creating a bad cycle of discoms generating companies, and it is leading to banks their NPAs. So what are your views on this point?
Good question. Last 6-7 years, to best of my knowledge, lot of changes have happened. There is a mandatory, like late payment surcharge discoms have to pay. Judiciary is also taking a very tough stance. Private sector is getting encouraged to replace role of those discoms, and they, with an improved performance, are able to deliver the power. You are right that earlier reforms have happened on the wrong footing, and discoms have suffered due to political intervention and other operating inefficiency, heavy losses, mounting losses, debts and other things. After this Uday scheme, partly it met with success, and now they have disciplined the region's root cause of losses were that bad tariff structure, so which is getting corrected, and which is corrected in many of the parts of the country, and results are now coming. Definitely last 3 years, if you see the same discoms performance, last 2-3 years, the improvement is there. Of course, some of them are still in a bad shape, like Jharkhand or Bihar. I am not talking about that. Number 2 is that there is a lot of incentivization. Uday scheme you have seen. After that, then government is also coming with lot of other support policies to make sure that this debt scheme is addressed. Through that, IBB has solutions, and through that NPA are also getting resolved through different ways. You will be surprised, NTPC has been directed now about 60 megawatt, 6,000 megawatt, sorry, is adding some more by 2030 of thermal power, which is already there under erection stages. So that is getting addressed to these things. But unfortunately, yes, bad phase, past phase was there. That is largely getting overcome. You will see a different scenario happening in next 5 years' time, because government is now fully cognizant about where the issues were there.
Good morning, sir. My name is Kshitij Chaudhary. So I have a question regarding the 3-stage nuclear program that was the brainchild of Dr. Homi Bhabha. So it had the potential to solve energy crisis for 3 to 5 centuries of India. So is that program is dysfunctional or not the focus of India anymore? So is there like the fast breeder reactors are difficult to manufacture or something?
Very interesting. Right now, current situation will not excite you much. It is only 8,000 megawatts. So today installed capacity is about 2%, 2.7%. Generation is about 3%. Problem with nuclear is it is very cost incentive, capital intensive kind of situation. And plus it is a long gestation period of 6 to 7 years, 8 years. So now the current commissioning, which are there at various stages, you will find another 15 gigawatt getting added by 2033, something like that. Lot of agreements are signed. World standard is even 10% of power generating through nuclear. Paris, France, Japan, they are almost something like more than 80%. France is more than, I'm told, 85 or 90% around is through nuclear. So a lot of agreements and contracts have been signed up in recent visit of including Mr. Prime Minister, and but it cannot still meet, long way to go to meet the country's requirement of something like 1,000 megawatt, gigawatt you need by 2032, of which 500 will be of course through renewable power. So this 30-35 again will not take anywhere. But if you take a scenario of 2047, then finally nuclear and renewable both will stay in a big way for this country. That's right now, but nothing is backed up, but there are inherent issues. And uranium also, you have to import kind of things. Last question I will take, please.
Very good morning. Very good morning, sir. First of all, thank you for enlightening us such a complex issue in such a simplified manner. So my question is such that, as you said, that around 72% of the coal is being used to generate power in still today's time. So if we are using coal, so it is quite obvious that the byproduct, the residue, is the ash, and we have to manage it.
Yes.
So ultimately, there is an ash management by making an ash dike. But still, as I've read somewhere, that even after using a lot of technology, the latest technology, there is very rampant ash breach of ash dike, and henceforth the ashes are being flown to and polluting the water bodies and the crops, and henceforth there is no alternative as such, because when it comes to Kehelgaon, a thermal power plant or any other, tons and tons and millions of ash are being produced every day.
Yes.
And the breaches are very rampant in nature. And again, when it goes and pollutes the water bodies and the crops of the farmers, then they go to the NGT and then go to appeal. And henceforth, it takes a lot of resources and energy of the government as well. So what are the solutions that on which the government or the stakeholders that they are thinking to manage or curb this issue?
Great. I'll take just 1 minute, because this is very, very pertinent question related to environment, and I am very passionate to answer this. I've done also myself a lot of studies on this. You know that, let me give you some perspective, is that if your power plant is not supercritical or efficient, then you are using a coal which has a less calorific value and more of ash, as high as 40%. Fly ash and bottom ash. Fly ash goes in air, bottom ash goes in the water and land. So this is being challenged, and so answer to your thing is, there are 3-4 initiatives. One is government has now come up with that, more setting up supercritical plants, which is like more than 1300 megawatt plant at one location. So you use that coal of a higher grade GCV value, and which has less of ash content. So also imported from 27% coal is still today imported from Indonesia, Australia and Africa. Now Russia is also becoming promising supplier for this. Now that coal has less content of ash and moisture. So with that it will create less headache. Ash is primarily used in making cement. So cement के लिए ये सबसे important raw material भी है, you know. And also it is used to lay the roads also, it is used to make bricks also, and the mines which have been used to extract coal, now those mines filling is also done with that ash content वापस, उसको भरना पड़ता है. And then there are some specific monuments and kind of things, approvals are there. So environmentally, lot of regulations have also happened, but more focus is to use the coal which will generate less ash. It is inevitable ash will be there, but then you do tie-ups with a lot of cement companies. We were paying rather more, सामने से उनको cement companies को amount देते थे, you lift 1 ton of the ash and we will pay you 50% transportation charges, and ash will go free, absolutely. So likewise, now we are also exploring exports of the ash as well. So in a way, ash disposal is happening under very, very government scrutiny and under government supervision. A lot of reports do go. So no water pollution, no air pollution, and no land degradation happening because of that. But long way to go. It's not problem which can be tackled overnight, but lot of has happened through these regulatory processes. So we have to live with it. Once that solar and all that comes, then there is nothing like fly ash. Hydrogen, another example. But whatever are there, you can't close it down. But some of the plants are getting phased out, which has a very highly inefficient in terms of disposing these gases and ash. So वो phase out हो रहे हैं, पुराने काफी हो रहे हैं. Okay, friends, thank you once again very much. for giving me this opportunity, and I am happy that some of you have got some. Thank you very much once again, and thank you, Varnaji. Thank you very much.